Come on, little man, and touch it. Take it as deep as you can. Anyways, speaking of getting it right the first time, I don't know how I feel about Han Solo, the new Han Solo movie. I am going to say I think Disney has really shit the bed when it comes to Star Wars. I think they've absolutely shit the bed across the board. Now, let me just give a quick rundown. Now, personally, I actually kind of liked and was very excited for where they could possibly go when it came to The Force Awakens, Episode 7. I really enjoyed that. Now, was it perfect? No. But I thought they were at least on a good, I thought they were on a good path, at least. Then came, what was it, Rogue One, Rogue Squadron, what the fuck it was. That movie, I gotta be honest with you, I don't see the point of. Now, my biggest complaint about that movie, and not that it was necessarily a bad movie, but it was a throwaway movie. But I kind of dig that they went back and was telling little stories like that, like little things that were mentioned, stuff like that. So I dig the fact they went back and did that. But again, at the end of the day, it's still a throwaway story. And the biggest problem with it, 2/3 of the movie itself were throwaway. You literally, all you need is the first 5 minutes, and then when Vader shows up, and anything after that. Everything in between was just complete throwaway. So, it was kind of hit or miss for me on that. It was an okay movie, but there's no point for it. It was like, it did nothing new. It really didn't. But I don't want to shit all over it either, so don't get me wrong. And then that brings us, in fact, the Star Wars movie that we will not mention by name, fuck you, Rain Johnson, faggot. Nothing to do with him. Not even going to touch that fucking pile of trash. And then we come back to Solo. Now, I don't know how I feel about Solo. Personally, I think story-wise, in conception, as far as like what they were trying to do with it, I would give it about an 8 out of 10. But the overall presentation, I got to give a 7 because it didn't feel like Star Wars to me. Yeah, like one or two scenes where there's a couple stormtroopers and the occasional blaster sound. That was about it. It just didn't feel like Star Wars to me. The lack of a crawl at the beginning of it was annoying. It just should have been there because, no, there's definitely going to be spoilers here, so obviously anybody listening, the ending, the reveal of who the bad guy is, very weird. Which is odd to me because it's really cool, but it's really weird. So it's kind of a catch-22 where it's like, okay, this is really cool, but how? And if the Star Wars movie that shall be not named was any indication of what they're going to do with story threads throughout the rest of the, it's like, they're not going to, basically, they're not going to tell anything. Why he's there. Is it him? Is it somebody of his clan? Whatever. They're not going to explain any of that stuff. Apparently. Now, unless the movie that shall not be named was just simply a one-off bad experience and they're going to try to course correct, which I'll be honest with you, they didn't course correct. They actually went full balls blazing and it was like, oh yeah, this guy's so great and blah blah blah, and fuck the fans. Fans don't know what they're talking about. They're a bunch of entitled whining crybaby, alpha male pieces of shit. Fuck you. They were actually saying this. People at Disney were actually tweeting this type of stuff out. Like they don't care what the people think, and fuck you. That movie was straight trash. I don't give a fuck. First off, it was just poorly written. I'm sorry. It was poorly written. The dialogue was absolutely retarded. And big chunks of the fucking movie had no purpose at all. None. Zero. But anyway, I don't want to get into that. I did enough ranting on that. That pile of trash, as I take a fucking deep breath. Stupid piece of shit. Even Disney came out and said before that pile of trash came out that they wish they had stuck with JJ for the whole thing. They wish they had stuck with him for the whole trilogy. They even admitted that. But of course, they don't want to. They had to double down, and because well, we did this, and now we've got to support it, no matter how crappy it actually turned out to be. They can't admit that they were wrong, but whatever. Now let's get into to Soylo. I think that's what the detractors were calling it, Soylo. What, whatever. The Solo story. Whatever the fuck. First off, it's a stupid ass fucking name. Solo. What was it? Solo, a Star Wars story or some? That was the stupidest fucking title. That was just stupid. Should have just been Han Solo. Fuck you. That's what they should have called it. That should have been the title. Han Solo, fuck you. Or whatever it is. So whatever. No, colon. That's confusing too. Whatever. You get my point. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the movie. I'm not a big fan of the guy who's playing Han because I think they could have got somebody who actually looked like Han. I'll be honest with you, what it felt like they were trying to do was the same thing they did with young Kirk. They were trying to do the exact same character. But I'll tell you one thing though, the new Star Trek reboot actually did it right. This was just kind of a Me Too thing, not associated with the hashtag, obviously, but you get my point. Another same kind of... So that was a little weak to me. But again, it felt like they were trying to do that exact same character, young Kirk. And it just didn't work. Now, I will say, I don't think the guy did a bad job. I just don't think he was a good Han Solo. If you get what I'm saying. But, now that he's quote-unquote Han Solo, I think the next movie, the next part of the trilogy, or whatever they're going to do with it, I think it'll work out. I think it'll be fine. It's kind of like, I had the same feeling that I had with, what's his name, who played Superman? Harry, whatever the fuck his name is. Whatever that guy's name is. I just didn't like him. He didn't look like Superman to me. But after you get through the Man of Steel, and then you go into Batman versus Superman, I was like, okay, this is Superman. It took me an entire movie just to get into it and say, okay, this is what it is now. Or it's weird because I didn't have that feeling with Ewan McGregor when he did young Obi-Wan. Didn't have that feeling. It was like, okay, this is young Obi-Wan. It's like my mind can get around it. It's like, okay, there's old Obi-Wan, who's just a cool old guy. And then there's, this. I can get behind that. But I just, for Han, I don't know. I can't get past it. It's like, I think they could have had a better choice. It's not necessarily actor-wise. I think he's a fine actor. I think he did fairly good. It's just, I think there's other people who could have looked the part better. Whatever. But obviously that's not what they were going for whatever fucking reason, but whatever. Because it almost felt like it reminded me of the dude from Guardians of the Galaxy. So it was like he was trying to play young Kirk. I forgot what the guy's name is from Guardians of the Galaxy, but it was like him trying to play young Kirk. It's basically what it was. And the whole time I'm sitting there thinking, this is reminding me of young Kirk. And it just isn't working for me. But again, I don't want to shit all over it because I did like it. It was always that thing in the back of my mind where it was like, I've seen this before. And he reminds me of everybody except Han Solo. It reminds me of young Kirk. It reminds me of the dude from Guardians of the Galaxy. It doesn't remind me of Han Solo, so it's like, what the fuck? Yeah, I don't know. I won't shit all over this movie. It's definitely a step up from the one that shall not be fucking named, but so is a pile of dog shit, too, but that's neither here nor there. Oh, my God. And I don't know how I feel about Ron Howard's directing. I'm not against Ron Howard. I'm not really for him. I'm not really against him, so it was okay. But again, I didn't feel like it was Star Wars. It just didn't have the Star Wars feel to me. It had the names, it had the concepts, it had all the the bass stuff. It had, again, the little blaster sounds. It had the occasional, this, that, or the other. But it did not feel Star Wars to me, like, at all. And I don't know if that's Ron Howard to blame, if that's, Kathleen Kennedy to blame. I don't know who the fuck you blame on that, but it was a little weak when it came to the Star Wars nostalgia and the Star Wars shit, basically. Whatever they throw into it, the bullshit they put into it. I don't know. It was a little lackluster to me. There was some cool stuff in there. Whoever that one gangster was, where he threw the rock, the fucker didn't like the light. I thought that was kind of cool. One thing I really did think was very cool was that fucking train. I loved the way that train, just the way it looked and the way it moved. And then when it went around the corner, it kind of did this tilt. I really liked the train. I thought the whole train sequence was very cool. That felt kind of Star Warsy to me. Kind of just, I don't know, the designs that they're coming up with. And I understand they're technically older designs, but it's like they're riding around in a shoebox, and it's like, especially when you go back and you look at that land speeder thing that Luke had back in day one. The fact that they did, I think, if I remember correctly, somebody said they did it with like gel or something, or they made it and it, I don't know, whatever. But you look at that, and then you see the new concepts, and it's like, oh, art design 101. Here's the shoebox. Let's put them in it. And you fly away. It's just, the designs are kind of lazy to me. And this is coming from somebody who comes from like playing lots of video games and shit where there's tons of ships and tons of stuff. I don't know. I just thought some of the stuff was a little lazy. And I'm talking the new stuff. That's all. That's was it 4 now? They're out to 4 Star Wars movies. Yeah, they all seem just a little lazy. Now I understand there's but the designs could have been cooler. They just could have been. So that was a little weak to me. See what else was there. No, I don't want to get into this because, listen, I understand they're doing the whole SJW Warrior bullshit. I get it. But it's like, how many strong female characters can there possibly be? I mean, I get it, but it's like, okay, enough's enough. You've given us 100 million fucking strong female leads. Okay, it's time to get over that. You're not doing anything innovative. You're not doing anything new. You're not doing anything to push the story forward. It's just the same bullshit over and over and over and over and over and over. Everyone so far has had a strong female lead. Okay, fine. It's great. And yes, Star Wars could use some more strong female leads. I am all for that. But constantly, over and over and over and over, every single time, there's Han over there fumbling with the lightsaber while the chick is, which is great. I don't care because I thought she was a cool character. So, unlike what's her face, the one that shall not be fucking named. Don't want to talk about her, but whatever. At least this character was relatively intelligent. So again, I don't want to get into that. I'll tell you one thing. That fucking robot irritated me. I don't know what it was. Something about the fucking L3, L1, L2. Fuck you. Alt Control Delete. Whatever the fuck her name is. God, she was just fucking obnoxious. And then the whole sequence when Lando was like running out into the battle zone. Oh my God, that whole sequence, I had no feeling toward that at all. That did nothing for me. Like, it felt like they were trying to make it into this big emotional, oh, he loved the robot, and oh, blah, 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 blah. It was stupid. It was just plain fucking obnoxious. The whole thing, the whole robot was just fucking obnoxious to me. It's like they're trying to do some sort of robot equality bullshit, okay? And I understand. I think it was a really cool concept, especially when you have R2 and 3PO back in the day, and they're like, "Hey, we don't serve your kind here," and he's like, "Oh, I think Master Luke, I think we should wait outside," and he's like, "Yeah, 3PO, I think it's a good idea." I love the concept, and I like the backstory of all of that. And then they're like, "Oh, and then this fucking robot is like, "Oh, you should stand up for yourself," and blah. That whole sequence when you first meet that robot, it's like, oh my god, no, no, it's too much. No, it's stupid. It's stupid. It detracted to me. For me, it detracted from the movie. I don't think you need that shit in there. Because, again, I love the way old school Star Wars used to be. Yes, they had political shit in there. They were talking about Vietnam. They were talking about World War II. They were talking about certain things. Even Hitler and the way the soldiers look and just the way they kind of... There's that kind of stuff in there, but it was for the viewer to find it. Not like, oh, here it is. Here's some SJW warrior. Bend over, now fucking shove it up your asshole until you fucking bleed out and die. That, no. Because all it does is draw attention to that. And I understand that's the point. They want to draw attention to that. And it's all, I would much rather be subtle and be like, hey, you know what? This is a cool character and she's being treated like shit. Maybe we shouldn't treat her like shit. I would be more receptive to that instead of it just being, yeah, fuck you, you're going to get it whether you want it or not. And again, you look at the way they implemented, especially Lucas back in the day, and the whole bullshit that they would do political. Like, they would tell political messages in there. That was the whole point, in a lot of ways. But it was subtle, and it didn't take away, and it didn't distract from the fucking movie or the story at hand. And what was cool is that you could relate to it because it's like, oh, I remember hearing stories of World War II or Vietnam or, the Bush administration or whatever the time was at the given time of the actual show that came out. And it's like, I can relate to that because it's like, okay. Like if they did it now and you've got this weird orange-haired dictator who is a complete asshole. Okay, you could relate to that. You could. Without saying, oh, this is Donald Trump, he's a piece of shit, go fuck him. Okay, you don't need to do that. Women equality, blah, 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 blah. You don't need to do that. Because, again, it distracts from the fucking story. That's a problem that I've had with all this SJW bullshit. They did the same thing in Marvel Comics. They did the same thing, because everything Disney's got to be forced feminist bullshit. And again, I'm not against feminism in any way, shape, manner, or form. I am not one of those people. I don't care. I mean, I don't care one way or the other. But the simple fact is, I'm not against it. But I'm against it being shoved up my fucking ass to the point I bleed out and fucking die. I think that's a bit overkill. I think that's a little bit overkill. So, I would challenge feminists, these types of, like, outlandish feminists, I would challenge them, make me give a fuck. Make me care. Don't shove it up my ass. Make me give a fuck. Make people care about the situation. Make people actually give a fuck instead of constantly just shoving it fucking up our ass. Now, again, I know you're liberal and okay, I understand that it doesn't affect you and you think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. I understand it. But the rest of us, I don't want to go into Star Wars and be like, oh, gee, what feminist movement agenda are they going to give to me today? Okay, I'm not going into Star Wars for that. I'm not. I'm not going into, oh, gee, what strong female lead are they going to show us this time? I don't give a fuck. Give me a fucking strong Jedi. I don't care if it's man, woman, or a piece of fucking shit laying on the ground. I don't care if it's a walking dildo. I don't care. If it's strong in the Force, make me give a damn. They've done nothing to do that. Like, Rey, I think, is one of the weakest fucking characters ever assembled in history. Because she had to do nothing to... She didn't even have to learn the shit. She just like, oh, yeah, Force, yeah, there you go. She's doing stuff for no reason. Now, if they had actually tied it in where, okay, yes, her and Numbnut were brother and sister, which would tie in with Luke and Leia. It would be a really nice little tie-in where, okay, they are brother and sister. She is actually Han's daughter. Han and Leia's daughter. and somebody stole the Millennium Falcon and she was on it as a child and they flew off with her, that would have been a really nice little tight-knit story that made me actually give a fuck about her, because the more he learns, Kylo, the more he learns of the Force, because they're so well connected, she learns it by default. That would make sense to me and I could deal with it. That's not the narrative they wanted to tell. No, you got this little squibbly little emo faggot, Kylo faggot Ren, that they might as well just call him. Homo Ren, might as well just call him that. With his little wide chest, sitting there. little coward, little bad man. Okay, and you got Strong Ray, the little gruff face. Okay, that bullshit. That bullshit. And she's just learning the Force. Just, nobody told her, hey, you ever think about Force pushing? No, she's like, oh, Force push, boop, and everything just flies out into space. Just, oh. That does not make a compelling character on any level. And listen, I understand you got daughters and shit. That is not a good role model for your daughters. Like, hey, you can do whatever you want without having to work for it. No. Now, I don't mean to sound Republican when I say that. But you can't just walk into a bank and say, give me $1 million. You can't. Yet she won the Force Lotto. It's not a compelling story. Again, you harken it back to Luke. I don't give a fuck the fact that he was a man. Who gives a shit? It could have been, whatever. Could have been a female version of Luke. Guess what? That moment when he's in the Bumble Cave and he's holding out his hand for the lightsaber and it's wiggling, you as the character, or you as the viewer, are going along with that character and you're thinking, holy shit, that motherfucking Bumble's coming to rape his asshole and gonna eat him up. He needs to fucking get that saber. He needs to fucking save himself and get the fuck out. And like, you're going along for the ride. The ride, you're already at the destination. If she's so Force strong and she didn't have to learn a damn thing about it, in other words, Luke wasn't climbing on her back or nothing like Yoda back in the day, and she's just, oh, I'm just a Jedi fucking master now for no reason at all of any kind whatsoever. You want your daughters to go on that kind of a ride where it's like, oh, you're just super strong for no reason, none whatsoever. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you don't give your daughters a positive message where, yeah, you can do anything, but you can't just walk in and say, oh, I'm already there. You can't just sit there and say, I've gone from 1 to 10 automatically, fuck you. That to me is just bullshit. That whole agenda bullshit is exactly what pisses me off about the current Star Wars situation. Because I think young women deserve better than that. They do. Of the main stories, they deserve better than that shit. And no, you can't just do whatever you want. I can't walk into the White House and say, I'm the new president now. Fuck you, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't say I'm the leader of the universe. I can't do that. I just can't. Even with white privilege, I can't do that. Wished I could, but I can't. So it's like, I seriously don't like that aspect. Now, you want to put decent, to me, I've said this from day one. When it comes to the feminism bullshit, there's legitimate feminism, and then there's just crazy liberal retardation, just that bullshit. Don't even get me started with that shit. Like Kathleen Kennedy's running around with a stupid shirt. Oh, the force is feminist, or whatever the fuck it is. The force is female, or some fucking bullshit. That pisses me off, because don't alienate 99% of your player base. Seriously, do not alienate the people who are watching your shit. Don't alienate everybody. It's like when X-Men tried to say that the X gene was co-equal to being gay. The minute you label it, you alienate everybody else. Because what's so cool about the X-Men is if you're fat, you're short, you're whatever, black, white, whatever, you could relate to that. If you're gay, you could relate to that. The world fears and hates you. If you're gay, you can relate to that. If you're poor versus rich or whatever, you could relate to the world coming against you. Everybody can relate to that. That's the point. As a basic story, You want the most people to relate to your shit. Now, you're going to sit there and take a minority and say, well, okay, I'm just going to cater to this one particular minority. I can't relate to being gay, so guess what? If the X gene is equal to being gay, then I can't relate to it, which means I can't relate to the X-Men, which means I don't buy your product anymore. That's simple. No, I'm not against a gay person saying, as a gay person, I can relate to this. I'm all for that. In fact, I agree with that. But the minute you label it, the minute you turn it into, it is this, then that's all it becomes. You limit the shit for some stupid political bullshit agenda because it makes you feel good. And to me, making more people feel good as opposed... Because again, you're not alienating gay people. If you're an X-Men fan and you're into that, and they have the gene and the world fears and hates them and all that bullshit, you're not alienating anyone. You're, in fact, encompassing more people. You know? But again, the minute you labeled that shit, it's it. So why are you trying to take away from me when I've done nothing? I've done nothing to hurt you. I'm not even saying it like... No, I could see if it was one of those things where it's like, okay, well, queers shouldn't like this. Queers shouldn't like the X-Men because that has nothing to do with them. They're gay and they're just worthless and they should have nothing. Okay, I could understand that. And you're like, no, we're going to make it for them specifically. Fine, I don't have even a problem with that necessarily. But again, when you're taking something that has been so universally accepted by a lot of people, you can't just then automatically backtrack because it makes you feel good. I think that is absolute bullshit. Now, like when it comes to all this feminist bullshit, and again, I say bullshit because the way they present it is absolutely this. Because again, you gotta understand, there's legitimate feminism, and then there's insane liberal and bullshit feminism, and that shit just gives me the fucking shits. I can't stand it. I can't even speak right now. Again, my version of feminism is, yes, we should stand up for women on lots of different levels. Like, for example, if a woman is being fucking abused by her husband, guess what? Guess what? She can't leave him. You know why? Because everything is in his fucking name. The house, the car, the bank, everything is in his fucking name. She leaves, she's got nothing. If she doesn't have family to go to or somebody she can go to, especially if there's kids involved, most women will sit there and take the abuse simply because the fucking kids are involved. And what's she going to do? Take the kids away and live in a car somewhere? No. That's shit that I would be more, as far as feminism goes, I would be more into that than sit there and say, well, we need a strong female lead who hasn't done a goddamn thing, but she knows everything about the Force, and it just comes naturally because, yeah, why the fuck not? Because I could totally relate to that. I'm sure your daughters can relate to fucking having every goddamn thing handed to them just because they willed it. That's fucking stupid. That is absolute bullshit to me. That is absolute bullshit. It pisses me off. That irritates me. Not because I'm some conservative or Donald Trump fan or some bullshit. It has nothing to do with it. Or toxic masculinity. Dude, if my fucking kid ever came to me talking toxic masculinity, I'd punch the little faggot in the fucking head till one of us stopped breathing. And that's all I'm going to say on that fucking shit. Probably would be me because I'm out of shape and I'm going to fucking die soon anyway. So, I got your toxic masculinity hanging. Fuck you. How about that? Absolute bullshit. There's no reason. See, the problem is, we want it to be inclusive. Yeah, by excluding everybody else. Oh, well, the Force is, what is it? The Force is female, or the Force is feminism, or Force is something. Whatever that stupid shirt was that Kathleen Kennedy had on. Force is female, I think it said. Okay, well, fine. But now you know what you're doing? You're alienating half the fucking human populace. Now, I don't necessarily care. They want to pretend that it's female, fine, I don't give a fuck. But don't sit there and alienate me. I didn't do anything wrong. I'd be on your side, technically. I'd actually be for you if you're not fucking ruining Star Wars. My beef is you fucked up Star Wars. My beef isn't the fact that I do, like, oh, you're just one of those toxic males, you just want everything about the males, and you're just a crybaby male because blah, 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 blah. It has nothing to do with that. They fucked up Star Wars. That's what pisses me off. I don't give a fuck. You could take your political agenda, shove it so far up your fucking ass that it comes out your back throat sideways. I don't give a fuck what you do. I don't care how you do it. The minute you fuck up with something that's important to me, that's when I'm coming at you. It has nothing to do with any of that stuff. So all these fucking Twitter fuck asses who want to sit there from whatever Disney and Kathleen Kennedy and all these fucking people want to sit there and say, oh, it's just a bunch of man babies. It had nothing to do with man baby. You fucking ruined something that was classic. You fucking ruined something that meant a lot to a lot of people. You treat Luke like a piece of fucking trash. I get a little upset with that. You give me a fucking Star Wars story that's Star Wars, not some political bullshit liberal agenda. And I'm not against liberal agendas. I'm not even going to get into that. Conservative or any of that bullshit. I'm not even talking that. You want to give me a Star Wars first centric story that actually makes fucking sense. It actually has, beat for beat in the story that actually makes fucking sense. Like, again, that scene where they're on the salt planet and the vehicles are going, it's making a little red streak, and all of a sudden some guy there's a scene where the guy just looks at the red thing, touches it, puts it to his lip, and goes, salt. That alone right there is just bad storytelling. It's just imbecilic at best. That scene right there should be what everyone who detracts it from that fucking movie that shall not be named, the last fuck ass, that they should show that scene and say that's exactly right there, a culmination of why this movie fucking sucks. That one scene alone, it was full. That scene alone. And what they should do is they should mass produce. They should take that little clip, mass produce it, and show it to every college that does any type of cinematic studies, and say, this is how you don't fucking do it. This is how you don't do it. This is imbecilic writing. This is amateur hour bullshit. It's bullshit. It's not witty, not inventive, not intelligent. It's bullshit. Okay, bullshit. What pisses me off, I actually liked Force Awakens. I actually liked it. And again, if they had given me a reason why Rey was getting all these Force powers and she could just learn it at the drop of a fucking hat, I would have been, hey, again, if they were brother and sister, I use that as a simple example. If the two of them, if Kylo and her were brother and sister, they were Han and Leia's children, and they had actually tied the narrative, of course, tying the narrative together is something that didn't happen in that other shit fucking movie that shall not be fucking named. And that's another thing. You cannot, as a storyteller, take every fucking thread, storyline, and say, oh, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. It means nothing. What's Rey's heritage? Doesn't mean anything. Snoke. What's Snoke's agenda? No, doesn't matter. He dead in the stupidest fucking way imaginable. The man can link the two fucking people. He's so strong in the goddamn Force, he could link Rey and fucking Wide Chest together across fucking galactic light years. Yet he can't register that the fucking lightsaber next to him is... no, that is bad storytelling. That is just imbecilic storytelling. Now, if there's a reason for it, and I think they could fix that, like, oh, I don't know. I've stated this. I think if Snoke had been, basically, if it had been Palpatine's master, and he was some sort of, because some fans before all this, they were talking about, in the lore, there's a Force vampire, basically. Like, if he was the Force incarnate kind of a deal, and he was taking over Snoke, which would explain why he's all decrepit, because he's taking over that body and it's basically just raping him, and he goes from body to body, that would be a really cool way to explain why Snoke is a fucking loser. Why he looks all decrepit and shit. Because it's that entity taking over that body. That body will eventually die, he will have to move on. So if you took that concept very simply and said the reason that the lightsaber he didn't register is because he was going to basically let that shell die and he was going to move on because it would, oh my god, dude, it would tie in so perfectly. It would tie in perfectly because who was the strongest at the time? It was Luke. What did Luke do? They even mentioned it. He basically turned himself off from the Force. Why? Because he was being manipulated by Snoke or whatever entity it was, to go after his nephew. And the minute he realized that he was being, like somebody tapping into your phone line kind of a deal, and he's like, fuck this, and he unplugs himself, so to speak. They even set that up. They even set that shit up. They could have easily done it and would have tied in that. Because that's another stupid story. That's another stupid storyline because, Daddy's the most fucking evil being in the universe, fucking Darth fucking Vader, yet, I sensed some good in him, but, nephew? No, we gotta kill nephew. Made no sense. It made no sense, but you put in the whole vampire thing and the whole Force, the evil Sith Lord Force incarnate going from host to host, and he wanted Luke to be the next host. Well, then who after Luke? Who's next? Kylo Ren. Makes fucking sense. What happened in the throne room? Kylo was being all wishy-washy, the little emo faggot that he is. Then he finally man the fuck up, killed Snoke. It would make sense. And then you have the fucking whatever entity he is take over Kylo. So you'd have like super strong Kylo for no fucking reason. And then you'd have to have Rey try to battle him. And the more he learns, the more she learns. It would all tie together. That's just a simple way to fix it to me, but whatever. I'm not getting paid the millions of fucking dollars. I'll tell you one thing, if they actually did what I suggested right there, I think it would make episode 8, the one that shall not be fucking named, I think it would make it a lot better story. Because you look back and say, okay, he lied. Kylo lied to Rey, saying that her heritage didn't matter. They're brother and sister. He's fucking with her. Being manipulated by whatever this being is. Palpatine's old master or whatever. It could be anything. Or maybe the Force finally did awaken and there's the good Force, the bad Force, and they're actually entities like God and Satan. They could easily done something like that too. I mean, it could all work together, whatever. And again, I'm just spitballing here for like 5 minutes. Okay, these people have had decades to come up with this stuff, and they come up with the worst possible fucking story imaginable. I spitballed something that is far superior than anything that they've even produced, but hey, whatever. And there's other fan fiction out there, and I'm not even an expert at the fan fiction and like the backstory and all the bullshit. So like, there's probably 100,000 different fucking ways you could turn that into something that's actually viable. The way it is right now, no. So JJ's got his work cut out for him. Now again, if they had done something like I had suggested, I think that would have totally worked. Would have tied all that bullshit together. Because how do you defeat a Sith Lord who can just go from body to body? That's intriguing to me. In fact, Stargate did something similar to that with Anubis, where he was being ascended in that mythology, whatever being ascended meant. He transcended his physical body and became energy. Well, other beings who had ascended were like, no, this guy's an evil prick, fuck him. They went to send him back, and when they did, they couldn't send him fully back into his human form, so he's kind of this ghost energy, not human, not ascended. He was kind of somewhere in the middle, and he would take over hosts of people. It was a similar concept, and it totally would work in this case. Totally would work. Because, again, it would explain, who is Snoke? It doesn't matter. He was just some random guy that this Force took over, that this entity took over and was controlling. So when he died, because what it did, if you take my scenario, what that scene would have represented was whatever the Force being was, sacrificed the host, Snoke, so that Kylo would step the fuck up. Because after that, he kind of manned up and he was like, he wasn't self-doubting anymore. He was fully committed. From that moment on, it would totally work. What I just suggested totally would work. Absolutely would work. It would. Not saying it's the best story necessarily, but it would work. It would tie all that shit together. It would explain all the stupidity of episode 8. All the stupidity. All of it. Very simply. Tie it all the fuck together. Again, why did Luke want to kill Kylo? But he sends good and Daddy. Like, oh, I can't kill Daddy, but I can kill nephew. That made no damn sense. Made no damn sense. Why is Luke getting powers that she doesn't even comprehend or even have knowledge of or even have an inkling even exist? Yeah, she's getting them. Why? Because she has a connection to Kylo. The more Kylo learns, the more she learns. Which would be interesting because if he was then taken over by whatever this being is, he'd be super strong. She would then be super strong too. So you'd have this really very interesting battle actually between the two. Brother and sister going at it. Light versus dark would be very interesting. A very interesting concept to me. But hey, whatever. Like I said, I just spitball 5 minutes, fix the whole fucking problem. But hey. Anyways, let's get back to the point. I don't want to talk about that anymore. Let's see, the Han Solo story. I'm trying to remember the fucking thing. I just watched it like last night, night before. I can't remember. Woody Harrelson was a very odd choice, and his acting was very subdued. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I want to say it was good, but I don't want to say it was bad either. It was interesting, and I mean that in a good way. Like it was, like positive interest, I guess. Like how he and Opie work together. Just I don't know. I don't know. I definitely enjoyed the character. I don't know if I liked it as much as like a Qui-Gon. I don't think it was that cool of a character. But I don't know. I definitely liked he was in it. I thought he did fairly good. Very interesting character. He's kind of the precursor to Han, I guess, in a way. So I don't know. I definitely liked his character. I thought his character was fairly good. Now I admit I did doze off a little bit during the movie. So I don't know if that was just because I was tired. It was right around when they were getting that. They were going to get that stuff that they had to refine, which was kind of eh. The whole sequence just was kind of eh. So I think I kind of dozed off because I don't know if it was because it was boring or because I was tired. I don't know. But it was only for a little bit, so it was just a tiny bit, and I was like, I don't feel like rewinding it for like a good 2-3 minutes. I dozed off for like 2-3 minutes. I was like, yeah, fuck it. They're there, they're getting the stuff. You kind of follow the story. It wasn't like I was losing any part of the story or anything. I thought Chewie was kind of interesting. They had him tied up. I'm curious how he got to where he was. Because last time we saw him, which was what, episode 3, I think? Yeah, and fucking Yoda was saying goodbye to him and shit, and his people were all dead. Or whatever. So it was kind of interesting how he got from there into the cage. Whatever. Him talking in the Wookiee language was kind of weird. I didn't like that. That bullshit. I thought that was really stupid. I get it. Obviously, they could speak to each other, but I don't know. I think it would have just been better if Chewie could understand English. I think that would have just been better. Just take that bullshit out of the. I don't know. It just was weird. It's just all it was. It was just weird. That minute shower together I thought was kind of fun. There was a couple moments where there was some humor too. I appreciate because Star Wars is definitely a humorous movie, especially the droids. Like in the first one, the first trilogy I should say, the original trilogy I should say, 4, 5, and 6. They're actually pretty funny, and they have some dialogue, like where they're going through the sand. They land and there's some dialogue between the two. That's very funny. And it's weird because it's 3PO just bitching at R2. And R2 squeaks and beeps, and he's like, there's little things like, and don't have me catch you following me, and that kind of stuff. It's funny. It was whimsically funny, I guess you could say, if that's even a right way to say it. But whatever. So it was nice to see there's some humor. I know they try to do that with whatever, the one that shall not be named. I understand they tried to do that, and I do appreciate that on some level. I will give some credit there. Some of the stuff, like the whole tit milk thing, should have been funnier than it was. It just wasn't funny because of the way they were portraying everything. I don't know. There's some parts in there, like I said, that should have been funnier than they were. But I don't want to talk about that fucking movie. That movie's no, no. Anyway, back to Han Solo. I am interested to see where it goes from here. I admit that, and I do think it's a step up. I don't think it was as good as Force Awakens by any stretch, which is kind of I don't know. I see again when I look at the 4 movies that they've done. I just because it's so hit or fucking miss, and there's no. This one to me is like a very baseline. It's okay. It was an okay movie. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I was more on the positive. So it's kind of like middle of the road but leaning positive, as opposed to middle of the road not leaning positive, which, whatever. I just, it's like they started out with Force Awakens, which I'd almost give a 9 out of 10. 8.5, 9 out of 10, somewhere in there. And then they went to Rogue One, which was, again, it was a throwaway story. It was good, but maybe a 7.5 to 8, maybe, if I'm really being generous. And then they went to the one that shall not be named, which is like not even a 2. I wouldn't even give. Fuck, if I could give negative numbers, I would to that, because that's just straight garbage. And then they come back to this, which is more like a 7, 7.5 to me. So it's like you start out really strong, you kind of falter a little bit, then you completely shit the bed, and then you kind of get a little bit better. So it's like, okay, what are we doing now? What's next on the agenda? Of course, they don't want to admit the fact that it was a shitty fucking movie. That episode 8 was just a shitty fucking movie, and they have to make excuses. Well, there's fan fatigue. We don't want to bring out Star Wars movies every year. I don't know, the fucking Avengers do it, Marvel does it. People aren't fatigued with that shit. Dude, they got fucking Ant-Man, for fuck's sake. Nobody gives a fuck about Ant-Man. Nobody gives a shit about Ant-Man. Yet he's got I don't know, compared to, sales of like the Avengers versus that, but guess what? The motherfucker's got his own goddamn movie. Black Panther. Got his own movie. These are like obscure characters. Black Panther is probably one of the more obscure characters. You can say what you will. He's not a Wolverine. He's not a Batman. He's not like up, top tier echelon. Okay, he's probably middle of the road. He's probably about a 7 on that Richter scale. Not a bad character or anything. I don't want to take away from it. But like Ant-Man, nobody gives a shit about Ant-Man and Wasp. Who the fuck cares about Ant-Man and Wasp? Okay, I guarantee you, there's countless people who are into comics and shit who don't even know who the fuck Ant-Man and Wasp are. I don't know who the fuck he was. I didn't give a shit. Yet he's got a movie that's far superior than Episode 8. That movie's far superior than Episode 8. Guardians of the Galaxy are nothing. They're nothing. They're not the Fantastic Four. They're nothing. Yet they had 2 really good movies. Why don't I own Guardians of the Galaxy 2, by the way? That's the question that I have. Whatever. But they've been 2 fairly good movies. Yet, Episode 8, you compare the 2, I'd rather watch Ant-Man and Wasp than I would fucking Episode 8. I'd watch any of that shit. Even Justice League, and everybody's pissing and complaining about Justice League and fucking uh, Suicide Squad and some of those other ones, not hitting the mark like it should. Those are still far better movies. Listen, Suicide Squad is a far better movie than Episode 8. That's just a simple fact. It's a simple fact. You may not have liked it, but it's still a better movie. The Expendables was a better movie than Episode 8. Okay, you can't deny that. I mean, at least with the Expendables, you had all those big names together. At least you could say, you know what, that was kind of cool. They were all together. Great. Not the greatest movie, but there's that aspect. Name me one positive out of Episode 8. Name me one. Name me one. Name me one. The closest thing I could think of that was even remotely possible of being anything positive is when Luke and Han, or no, Han and Leia met up for the first time. That was kind of the only sentimental, like, I give a fuck about this movie. That's the only highlight. That's it. And that didn't even happen in Episode 8. That was in Episode 7. So, I don't even know what the hell. I don't know. They could have had the same thing with Luke and Leia in Episode 8, but did they? No. No. They didn't. I don't know, man. It's just. It pisses me off. It really does. Like, if they just came out and said, you know what, we're sorry, we made a fucking shitty movie. This guy sucks. What do? They give him a fucking trilogy. Like, oh yeah, you fucked up this story. Here's another one you could fuck up. You know? I don't know, man. Actually, I think they took the trilogy away from it, but whatever. I wouldn't give him... Dude, I would blacklist that fucker in a heartbeat. The guy just can't write. I'm sorry. He should have had somebody else who knew what they were doing help him out or something. I don't know, man. It's just, I don't know, it's depressing. Anyways, I keep going back to that. It just irritates me so much, I keep going back to it. Anyway, Han Solo, like I said, the title was stupid. I'm not a fan of the actor being Han. I thought he did fairly good. I thought he was a good actor. I'm not against that. It's just, is he a good Han? No, I don't think he's a great Han at all. Which, I mean, they could have done way better. They could have gotten somebody who actually looked like Han, who could get some of the mannerisms. He tried to do a couple of the mannerisms, and it's just, I don't know. I'm willing to try to let him grow on me, if that makes sense. Like, if there's a sequel, like a part 2, I think it'll be a far better. Because now it's like, okay, he's Han. I do think it'd be cool that if he's going to be Han, like, in an ongoing, way, they should also have him, if they ever rebooted Indiana Jones, I think he could be, he should be the, because it would be kind of funny, actually. The same guy doing Han Solo both times. I think it'd be kind of funny, but that's just me. But whatever. Because it would be kind of weird seeing Han Solo in Indiana Jones, like a younger Indiana Jones, played by two different people. It'd just be very weird to me. So if they actually had the same guy play both characters, Han and Indy, I would think that'd be kind of cool, but I don't know, whatever. Yeah, like I said, I did enjoy the train. I thought the train was very cool. I liked that sequence. I don't know why. I don't know. It was just something about the cargo transplant. I don't know. It was just, I enjoyed that. I didn't really care for the four-armed little bug thing. That character, he was kind of blah, but he ended up dying anyway, so who gives a shit? I'm trying to remember. The one bad guy, whatever his name was there, he was okay. He was pretty cool. I liked him. He's kind of generic, but eh. And then you see the fucking Darth Maul at the end. Holy shit. Kind of stupid, but kind of cool. So it's like, I don't know where they're going with that. I'm definitely interested. Now, of course, again, if you get fucking, I gotta bring fucking Ryan Johnson in. He could do Han Solo story 2. Oh yeah, Darth Maul. Yeah, who cares? Who cares how he got there? Who cares? Let's not tell that story. No, let's tell another casino story. Yay, we can tell a story about slaved immigrants somewhere. Fucking bullshit. Stupid ass bullshit. I mean, yeah, you just think about all the ways that fucker could have ruined the stories. I mean, think about it. You imagine if Ryan Johnson had directed, oh, I don't know, Aliens 2. Imagine if he directed Godfather 2. Seriously. Think about all the ways he could have fucked everything up. Oh, yeah, Vito Corleone. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. None of these story plots matter. Dude, I'm sorry, you can't make a movie about shit that and then just pretend that it doesn't matter. Now, if they had been doing something, and I go back to Stargate, because Stargate, each episode was written and directed by different people. And sometimes they'd have like a trilogy, or like one season would end on a cliffhanger, and then the next season would happen, and somebody else would do it. And the way they would do it, almost like friendly competition. They're like, oh, one of the main characters, Dana Jackson, he got shot and he's on his dying deathbed. He actually died in one of the sequences at the end, and it's like, what the fuck, holy shit. And then they kind of leave this ambiguity for the next director and writer and shit. Like, how are they going to fix that? Because you got to reset it at the end of each episode. So, okay, he's dead. He actually died. You know, what the fuck are you going to do? Well, somebody puts him in the sarcophagus, which gives life healing shit, and they brought him back right before the ship exploded. So it was very cool. Now, if they were doing something like that, I could get behind that, where it's like, okay, JJ set up all these threads, and Numbnuts comes along and says, you know what, fuck you, JJ. And then now JJ's got to try to fix it all. If they try to do something like that, I could probably maybe get behind that on some level, or it's like, oh, well, Darth Maul's really a chick or something, some weird thing like that. You throw in this little twist, and it's like, well, how did that happen? I don't know. He's got tits or something. I don't know. Whatever. Or, Rey dies, and how are we going to fix her? Oh, the Force brought her back. They could have done something like that, which would have been really interesting to me. And I could probably get behind that, but it almost feels like Johnson went out on his own and kind of just, went in business for himself. And I was like, yeah, you know what? These stories, fuck them. All these story threads. Because, again, you watch Seven, and you're like, oh my god, what's her history? What's Snoke's deal? What's this? Who's Snoke? Who the fuck is Snoke, first off? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, Numbnut comes along and it's like, yeah, that stuff you cared about, you came here to see, fuck you. That's not good storytelling. That's just not good storytelling. So, if they're going to do a trilogy or a sequel to Han Solo, they need to address what the fuck is Darth Maul doing there? Is it the same dude? Is it somebody like from his tribe? They all look the same, or something. I mean, they gotta explain that. Got some explaining to do. Which, by the way, is a Mandela effect, because apparently he never said it to Lucy, but whatever. You got some explaining to do. He never said that. Which is bullshit, because I can hear him in my head saying it, and it's just bullshit, because I remember seeing the TV show. I remember watching it, and he's like, oh, Lucy, you got explaining to do. Fuck you, Mandela, you faggot. Stupid Mandela effect bullshit. Don't get me started with that shit. If anything, episode 8 should be a Mandela effect. It didn't happen. Fuck you. Because in the alternate reality where I originally come from, that shit didn't happen. That shit didn't happen. Episode 8 didn't happen. I'm almost better off for it, too, by the way, but whatever. Whatever. Anyways, I don't want to get into all that. So, overall, I liked it, but just 8 left me with such a bad fucking taste, dude. I don't think I don't think Solo Story was good enough to get everything back on track. It was positive in the right direction, but it did not do enough to me. For me, it did not do enough to get it back on track. Which I'll be honest with you, after 8, I don't know how the fuck you get back on track. JJ's got his work cut out for him, and that's all I'm going to say on that. He has got his work cut out for him to try to salvage whatever bullshit that was. Now, again, I think if they did what I suggested, you go back and look at that, and you put the whole Force vampire thing concept in there, again, it would make episode 8 actually look mildly intelligent. Whereas, like, they were stringing you along. It's like, okay, all these plot threats, plot threads, excuse me, that you were concerned with, well, we made it seem like they weren't anything, and then we're going to come back and we're going to revisit that. They got some, retcon to do here, because it's just, they need to fix that shit. End of discussion. So if they're just going to go along and say, well, her heritage doesn't matter, it doesn't matter where she came from, it's just, her parents were just junkers and they left her, fuck her, and she's just some random chick who won the Force lottery. If they're going to continue with that, that is not a good story. That is just simply not a good story. You make her Han's daughter, that's a really good story. You make her Leia's daughter, very good story. You make her Numbnut's brother and sister, you make them, and you connect that shit, that ties it together very well. So when you go back and you watch episode 8 and you see the interaction with them in the throne room, paints a whole different picture. They could take that and paint a whole different picture with it. It's kind of like what they did with when they went back and retold the original stories, and then you see, or go back and you watch 1, 2, and 3, and you see the interaction that Yoda and Obi-Wan had. And then they have that moment where Luke is taken off. He's like, no, there's another, and you realize it's Leia. They could have had a moment like that, where they kind of retcon that shit, and it was like, okay, it fits, it kind of works. You don't really know why they're talking like that in episode, 4? Because obviously Obi-Wan would know that Leia was there because he fucking gave birth to the woman. He was there at the moment, But whatever. I mean, again, they could have done something. They could do something like that, because they still have a chance. They still have a chance to fix this. JJ has a chance to fix it. I think if anybody can do it, that Illuminati motherfucker can do it. But, again, if they had gone into episode 8 with the concept of, okay, we're going to fuck with the people, which they kind of did that with episode 5, where it's like Han is now casing carbonate, he's going off to, Jabba's palace, and it's like, dun, 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 and they end it with the bugles and shit, and, Luke and Leia are hugging each other, looking out the fucking window, that bullshit. That would have been a kick in the dick if I was younger. Like, if I was viable back then, watching that shit, and having to wait for the next one to come out. Because you don't know when it's coming. You don't know if it's even coming out. Because that's the thing. You don't know if that shit's ever coming out. There's going to be more Star Wars movies. Because it's a franchise and they're just milking the shit for what it's worth. There's going to be a new Star Wars. There's going to be a new Avengers. There's going to be a new Marvel movie of some kind. There's going to be a new Batman, a new Superman. That shit's coming. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. There's going to be new Aliens. There's going to be a new Rocky or Creed or whatever the fuck you're calling it now. There's going to be all that bullshit. You just know it. Back then, you didn't know it. You were just hoping to God there'd be a sequel, just like, what the fuck happened to Han? Holy shit. And then, what was it, 5 years or something between the two? I don't remember off the top of my head, but that's a long fucking wait to wait for a new movie, I'll tell you that much. Like, I'm just happy that I can get the Blu-ray, pop it in. Oh, that's the end of episode 5. Now I can go into 6. Oh, there's Han. He's encased in carbonite. That's the only way to watch that shit. The only way to watch that shit. So again, if they had done something like that, where they just kind of like, oh, we're gonna make it seem like it's nothing, just to fuck with the people and make them wait, and then they see the next one and it's like, what the fuck? Everything you complained about, oh, here it is. We were fucking with you. I could get behind that, but that's not what they set out to do. That's what they ended up doing, but they didn't set up to do it. So now it's this rat race to try to fix everything and try to like, okay, this needs to make sense now, from which it does not currently. But hey, whatever. Anyways, would I recommend Solo? Yeah, I would. I think it was good. But again, I don't think it was good enough to make up for 8. I really don't. 8 had fucking problems. 8 was destruction of the fucking franchise. And they need to make the story better. They just do. I'm talking as a fan here. I'm talking as somebody who cares about the lore, cares about the characters. They need to do better for the characters. They need to do better for the people who have been watching this shit for 40 fucking years. You want to put your political bullshit agenda in there? Fine. Do what you gotta do. Make a good story. That's all I want. You give me a good story, you can put as much bullshit in there as you want. You want to talk feminism? You want a fucking gay-ass robot? You do whatever the fuck you gotta do. A gay droid sucking each other off. You do whatever the fuck you gotta do. You do whatever you need to do to feel good about yourself. Just tell me a goddamn story that makes me come away thinking, wow, that's really cool. I really experienced more of the lore, more of the fantasy of, oh, here's a new character that I've never seen before. Like, you know, that's why certain things like Labyrinth are so cool, because like every time you turn around, she walks into the labyrinth. There's that little worm telling her, "Oh, blah blah blah, go that way." Oh, he goes right directly to the castle. You know,